Hey everybody, this is Doomhammer, and we are going to get into the free agency period for the 2016 offseason. We just had the coaching changes, we went through the retirements. Here are some of the top free agents available. Number one is Julio Jones deciding that he is done with the Oakland Raiders, and of course he's going to be a top target for many teams. Deshaun Jackson is leaving the Philadelphia Eagles after they had a down year. They got Casey Hayward, the best defensive player, cornerback, 92 overall, tied with LaRon Landry, the 31-year-old. You got Josh Gordon leaving the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Tommy Harris, the 32-year-old defensive tackle, superstar. Dominic Rodgers-Cromartie, Russell Okung, Calais Campbell. Now, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers did not feel Blaine Gabbert was worth a big-time contract. We will see who thinks otherwise. So we'll give him a chance here to chase his dreams there and find what team wants him, as he is the best quarterback in free agency. They got Shane Olivia, A.J. Green, Al Woods, Brandon Albert, Marcel Reese, the best fullback in this class. Janoris Jenkins, Quentin Coples, Michael Floyd, Scandrick, two Steelers right there. Anthony Spencer, Josh Robinson. I'm going to just go through these a little bit faster just so that you can get a small preview as to who is available. Sanchez, who backed up Michael Vick, now goes to the free agency for a chance to maybe start somewhere else. He is the second best quarterback available. Lamar Miller was a backup for Todd Gurley in Pittsburgh, so he's testing the market. Let's see. Kirk Cousins also testing the market after going 6-10 one year and 5-11 the other year, and not so great. So as we are skimming through this, I might go to where it's 100, the top 100 free agents. Tannehill also hitting free agency. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and go to the end of free agency and show you where the chips fell. So we're going to start with quarterbacks. So Blaine Gabbert goes to the rival New Orleans Saints. Did not really expect that one to fall, but it is a big contract, a 4-year deal, $191.6 million. Tampa Bay liked Blaine Gabbert, but they didn't think he was going to take them to a Super Bowl, so they pass on him. And they end up going with Kirk Cousins, not like necessarily better, but he's a 3-year deal for $81.6 million, so a lot cheaper as they sort of find their new quarterback. If Cousins is able to come away with them and just take them to the Super Bowl, then great. However, there wasn't really many better options, and Tampa Bay was not going to give Gabbert, $108.4 million salary over 4 years. The New York Giants with Mark Sanchez, they end up getting him. We'll see if they're able to draft somebody, but yeah, Sanchez more of a journeyman quarterback, just has a high overall. Osweiler leaving Green Bay for the Jacksonville Jaguars. So they're going to upgrade from Colt McCoy there. Let's see. We got Ryan Tannehill returns to the Lions. The Lions were in the running for Gabbert, to not land him. Nick Foles goes from being competitive, maybe had a chance to start with the Bears, goes to the Cardinals. Drew Brees goes from the Saints to the Colts. So the Saints have a new coach, and so do the Colts have a new coach. But it was the Saints deciding they want to go younger as opposed to a 37-year-old. But the Colts, who do play in a dome, who play in the weaker AFC South, they decided that was the better route. Johnny Manziel did not get signed by anybody. He may end up going to Cleveland, or I have to decide whether I have him fill that roster spot. And then we got some backups here. Anderson goes back to his home team, the Broncos, where he was drafted originally, to kind of finish out his career. He'll be the backup for Sam Bradford. Henne goes to the Browns. Stanton goes to the Jets. Flynn goes to the Seahawks. We got Vince Young going to Buffalo. I missed Jay Cutler, but yeah, he's going to the 49ers. Ryan Mallett to Dallas. Palmer to the Falcons. He is a mentor. Raiders. Keenum going to the Chargers. Eagles get Troy Smith. And that's it for the halfback, or for the quarterbacks. So halfbacks, you got Lamar Miller going to the Raiders, David Wilson, Cardinals, Isaiah Pead, Chiefs. What we're going to do now is just go to the, well, let's see. We'll do the top receivers. So Julio Jones goes to Washington. And I didn't really want that to happen. I was kind of hoping he'd go to another team. But he goes to the Commanders. So that's going to be interesting to see who their quarterback is. But whoever it is going to have Julio Jones. Then they got, I can't believe this one either. So Deshaun Jackson goes from the Eagles to now the Dolphins. So the Dolphins now have Calvin Johnson Jr. and Deshaun Jackson on the same team with Cam Newton as their quarterback. I had multiple targets for Deshaun Jackson, and he decided to take the lesser deal and go. I think other teams may have offered more money, but he wanted to go to a place where he could win, and that AFC East, man, is tough. Now, Gordon leaves Tampa Bay and goes to Denver. Denver loses A.J. Green, goes to San Francisco, so they replace A.J. Green with Josh Gordon. Michael Floyd for the Giants, Quick, Tennessee Titans, Slater, the Jaguars, Nelson go from the Dolphins to the Buccaneers. So what we're going to do now is go by each team so you can see who they all picked up. So we had Russell Okung, A.J. Green, Malcolm Smith, and Jay Cutler all going to the 49ers. Got some good starters there. Solid left tackle, a great receiver there in A.J. Green going from Denver to the Bay. Malcolm Smith there as a linebacker. The Bears got Shane Olivier, Anthony Spencer, D'Angelo Hall, the 32, some old people here, but they're just trying to fill up some starter positions. Graham Gano as a kicker and Jeff Cumberland. We got the Bengals with Winston Justice, the best player they end up signing. They got tight end Orson Charles, Ridley, Jerome Clary, Bierman, and Mabin. Bills, we got Senio Clemente. With the going from the Giants to the Bills as a offensive guard. Michael Bush, one of the best fullbacks from Detroit. Andy Studebaker from Detroit also joins them. Ben Jones at center. William Moore and Vince Young. We got Broncos with Josh Gordon, Lamar Woodley, and Derek Anderson. So some older players there, but Josh Gordon was really who they went all in on. $149.5 million for 5 years. Big time money right there. Browns land some solid defenders. We got Dominic Rodgers-Cromartie choosing Cleveland as opposed to some other teams. Quentin Coples, the pass rusher for the Texans, goes to Cleveland. They lose Darryl Tapp and they pick up Coples. I think that's an improvement personally. Akeem Hicks, Brian Hartline, the Ohio State receiver. You got Dustin Keller at tight end. They kind of needed some depth there because they lost Dwayne Allen. Chad Henne, and then Darrell Richardson. And then Tampa Bay, that Asa Jackson, who's their top free agent. Cousins, who he didn't win a lot of games in Indianapolis, but an interesting statistic of his is that he only had 9 interceptions. And that was a pretty good season. I throw a lot of interceptions with my quarterbacks, and he was in single digits. So that level of pass protection and protecting the ball is going to be useful in Tampa Bay in a division that is very winnable for any of the teams. Darryl Tapp, Jordy Nelson, Dwayne Allen from Cleveland, and then Zadarius Smith going from Dallas to the Buccaneers. He's got like a star dev or something like that. Is it star dev? Yep. But he's only like a 69 overall. So I think he should be higher overall than that. Marcel Reese, the best fullback, goes to the Cardinals. And then Geoff Schwartz, 2 Titans, Sam Koch and David Wilson. They do bring in a quarterback to back up Dalton with Nick Foles. And they also bring in Aldrick Robinson, the wide receiver. You got the Chargers bring in Janoris Jenkins, Reggie Nelson, Keith Rivers, Toby Gerhart, the fullback, Chris Owusu, who was like a mid-round pick receiver for the Jaguars, and he ended up becoming a pretty solid receiver for them, and then Case Keenum as a backup quarterback. We'll see if they end up trading away Aaron Rodgers. I'll get more into that drama in a little bit. Chiefs, they got Malcolm Jenkins, free safety, 28-year-old in his prime. You got Max Unger, Ramon Foster, T.J. Barnes, and Isaiah Peed, all with the Chiefs. Then you got the Colts bring in Zach Strief, Brandon Marshall, Josh Laribius, Drew Brees. That's their big quarterback signing, but he's 37, so I expect to try to draft somebody or get this team a real quarterback soon because Brees is fine, but he's not the long-term answer. He's only $8 million for 2 years. And Andrew Sendejo as a strong safety. Commanders bring in Julio Jones, getting the number one receiver and number 1 free agent. They also bring in Antonio Johnson, Sheila Rashal, Derek Sherrod on right tackle. Alfred Morris with the Eagles. You got Darius Phelan, Virgil Green, and Edwin Baker. You got Dallas Cowboys, Tommy Harris. The big man goes from Jacksonville to Dallas. Ray Edwards, Carl Nix, Deion Butler, who's really, really speedy, and then Ryan Mallett. Dolphins bring in the second best free agent, Deshaun Jackson. And they got George Johnson, Kaluka Meava, and Kamal Ishmael from Pittsburgh. So 2 Chargers coming over to the Miami Dolphins. Eagles. They lose Jackson, so that was a big loss. They try to replace him with Chris Givens and Jacoby Ford. Not really the same thing, but they got some more depth. They got Nate Irving, the Sam linebacker, John Connor, Brandon Taylor, and then a backup quarterback in Troy Smith. Then we got the Falcons with Brandon Albert, one of the best offensive linemen in this free agent class, but is 31 years old. Carr Klug from the Chiefs, Marcus Cannon from the Bengals, and then Carson Palmer, who's now moving into backup territory in his career. Now the Giants do bring in a slew of 80-plus overall talent here with Al Woods, defensive tackle at 29, Michael Floyd, and Orlando Scandrick, both Steelers going to the Big Apple. Mark Sanchez, who may very well be their starting quarterback unless they can land a real quarterback. But other than the top 2, I mean, unless they can land Prescott or someone like that by accident in the later rounds, I don't see that happening. So Mark Sanchez is going to be their guy, most likely. Lance Lewis and then Justin Smiley, old man there as a right guard, but kind of shoring up that interior defensive line. Then we got Nate Soldier, the 28-year-old left tackle going from the Falcons to the Jaguars. Matthew Slater going from the division rival Titans to the Jags with the 80 overall receiver at 30 years old. And then they get their quarterback to replace Colt McCoy. Instead of the 6-foot tall Texas quarterback, they go with the 6'8", 6'7", big guy Brock. There's another nickname for him in the chat, but I won't say it here. But they get their quarterback at least to transition. He's 25 years old. We'll see if they go with a quarterback in the draft. Drew Stanton goes from the Lions to the Jets as a backup. Mike Gibson, just a guard. Then we got Packers. They have a slew of free agents going from Josh Robinson, the superstar cornerback, Chris Culliver, another cornerback, and Brandon Harrison, another quarterback. They had no depth at cornerback, so they get 3 new defensive backs. They get Matt Khalil at left tackle, John Sullivan at center, the veteran Ernie Sims, Tanar Jackson, Robert Gathers, and then Josh Bush, the free safety, all there for Green Bay. Panthers, they got Damata Pico, Jaquan Jarrett, Kenrick Ellis, and Clint Bowling, all in their 20s except for Pico, kind of the veteran presence there on the D-line. Now the Patriots land the safety. They land one of the best players on defense in this class. So they go from the Titans to the Patriots. That was their big signing. The rest were more lucky to fill because they use up a lot of cap space trying to land Landry. They got Montario Hardesty. He went from halfback to fullback, was with Pittsburgh for a while, was with the Chicago Bears last season. So he's kind of a good running back, fullback, so he can run the ball fairly well. So in real life, he was a running back for the Cleveland Browns, and he just kind of disappeared. He at least has become a reliable fullback in my franchise. Thomas Davis Sr., the veteran pass coverage linebacker at will, and then Bear Pasco, the tight end, to give them another option there. Then we got Bruce Irvin, the edge rusher for the Dolphins, wanting a bigger paycheck and about $13.2 million, $17 million in bonus in 2 years. Julius Peppers, because it's a very Oakland thing to do to sign the 36-year-old defensive lineman. But the Panthers move on from him because he is 36 years old. He went from an edge rusher to now a DT because he's gotten slower, so I moved him inside. So the Raiders are going to go with Peppers, and it's probably his last season or close to his last season in the league. They do bring in Lamar Miller as a running back and Deshaun Goldson from Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh losing a lot of their mid-tier talent this offseason. Eddie Royal, a receiver, Eric Wood, Brandon Mosley. We got Chase Kaufman, tight end, Martez Wilson, who's bounced around the league a little bit, and then John Skelton as a backup quarterback. Saints bringing in Calais Campbell. He's bounced around the league a lot too. A lot of people give him 1 or 2 year deals and he's gone. But he has an 86 overall edge, 6'8" or 6'9". Yeah, 6'8". Big guy. He's going to do some wonders here in the NFC South. Gabbert, of course, the big quarterback signing, Josh Wilson, and James Devlin. Then we got the Seattle Seahawks, Victor Butler. The Seattle Seahawks best free agent signing, a Will, 75 overall. John Asamoah, Chris Clemens, and Matt Flynn as a backup. Steelers get Chris Houston, 81 overall star. Colin McCarthy and Arthur Moats. Again, linebackers are hard to come by, so Pittsburgh trying to stock up. Then you got Casey Hayward going from the Detroit Lions to the Houston Texans, the best defensive prospect between him and Landry. You got Samson Satelli, Adrian Claiborne as an edge, Michael Bennett as an edge, and Jawan Jameson. Then we got the Tennessee Titans with Brian Quick at wide receiver, Stephen Pay, Jason Snelling, Devin Thomas, Markel Martin, Colin Jones, and Peter Cons. And then we got the Minnesota Vikings with Amari Spivey, Mohamed Sanu leaving the Broncos. Both him and AJ Green were there, and they were on the Bengals in real life together. Then they were in Denver in my franchise together. But this year they've split, with AJ Green going to San Francisco and Mohamed Sanu going to the Vikings. Perry Riley Jr., Corey White, and Alameda Tiamu finish up the free agency class of 2016. And now we're going to get to some of the trades in this offseason. But first, a little bit of rumor and speculation. So the biggest news here is that Aaron Rodgers, who has been with the San Diego Chargers his entire career, wants out. So this is something that I am doing just to shake up the league a little bit. He has made the playoffs in every single year. He has been about double-digit seasons every year. And so here are just some of the tweets and information about it. So if you want to see, Chargers have informed teams they are open to listening on franchise-tagged QB Aaron Rodgers. Per league sources, price is extremely high, and any deal would require multiple premium picks. Key detail in Aaron Rodgers' trade talks, he's franchise-tagged, giving the Chargers leverage, but Rodgers has made it clear he won't play for them. Rich Eisen, a source close to negotiations, say the Rodgers can't believe the teams will give up a first-round pick, not just the number 1 overall, which they're looking for with the Titans. Chargers are evaluating how high the market will go. And so this is a fun little thing of like a heat check. Who's to blame? Is it Sean Payton, the coach of the Chargers, for not being able to win in the playoffs and get into the Super Bowl? Because Rodgers wants a Super Bowl, and the Chargers are close, but they never quite get over the hump here. And so some fan reaction. Actually, these are some actual reporters from, I think Daniel Popper's a real Chargers, like, local beat reporter. So Chargers are fielding offers on Rodgers, but teams tell me the price is insane. More than just a couple of firsts. Rodgers' leverage is making this complicated. I've covered this team a long time. This has shifted fast. Rodgers' camp is making it clear he's done. Chargers now balancing leverage versus locker room damage. If Rodgers walks, I'm done. I've defended this team for 20 years, and this is how it ends. This is a random. These are random Charger fans. This franchise is cursed. You give a guy a 14-3 team and he still wants out. I'm sick. Everyone blaming Rodgers like the Chargers didn't waste prime years again. Be serious. Can't win a playoff game. Now, a lot of these discussions took place during the free agency. So, like, I had the Saints and the Giants were vying for Aaron Rodgers, but the Chargers did not send him there. The two teams I was considering the most were the Tennessee Titans, who have the number 1 overall pick. They also have Tavares Jackson, who can be moved as sort of a bridge quarterback if they wanted, but this allows them to get Jared Goff if he goes to the Titans. The Philadelphia Eagles were also a viable option because the Eagles have the 10th overall pick, but they also have a good landing spot for Rodgers. The Chargers could decide to send him to the NFC instead of keeping him in the AFC. So that way they could send him to the other conference. They also could give up Teddy Bridgewater, who has been the backup quarterback for McNabb, sort of the heir to the Eagles, and he could end up being the new guy with the Chargers. Also could go with the Indianapolis Colts or the Baltimore Ravens, but alas, the decision has been made, and Aaron Rodgers is going to be going to the Tennessee Titans. The Chargers are receiving the first overall pick, a third-round pick in 2016. They're also going to give up their first and second-round pick next year, and along with QB Tavares Jackson. Sorry about the 2018 there. That doesn't exist. But anyway, so Tavares Jackson is a bridge quarterback for them. This number one overall pick will most likely be Jared Goff. And then, of course, they got another first round. I thought about doing a Deshaun Watson type deal with 3 first-round picks, but in the franchise community, I got kind of talked down from that because this is 2016, not 2022. So the price tag may not be that high, especially as Aaron Rodgers is 32 years old, which is not old in quarterback years. He's got a lot more playing time to go. However, he's a 32-year-old quarterback. So instead of like Deshaun Watson was in his prime. He was 27, something like that, 26, 27. So he's 32 years old, one of the league's best and most elite. And so this made sense for the Chargers to give, if Rodgers wanted out, which I'm saying he did, got fed up with Sean Payton with not being able to win in the playoffs, getting knocked out in the first round, even being the number 1 team in the league. So he wanted a change in scenery. Now, the Chargers want to get as much as they could get. So getting Jared Goff, getting another first-round pick, a second-round pick, easy decision for the Chargers. Although the Eagles would have given him a different conference, I think it was best to get the number 1 overall pick and get Jared Goff as opposed to Teddy Bridgewater. Now, the Titans, the reason why it makes sense for them is that even though they have the number 1 overall pick and they were this bad, and in real life they did have the number 1 overall pick. It was the St. Louis Rams, the LA Rams, who traded up to get Jared Goff from the Titans. And so I think that's a very interesting. The Titans were the worst team in my league, as well as the worst team in real life. But that division is wide open. So the Titans are looking at this as, hey, if we get Aaron Rodgers, we're going to beat the Colts, we're going to beat the Jaguars, and we're going to beat the Texans. So if we get our franchise guy, it's okay if we give up Jared Goff. And the unproven answer, it's okay if we give a third-round pick, right? Because if we get Aaron Rodgers, we should be a playoff contender. Now, a few other trades. The Chicago Bears are also moving up. So they want the 2nd overall pick from the Cincinnati Bengals. Bengals don't need a quarterback. They've got Derek Carr. Now, did I think about taking Carson Wentz with the Bengals? Yes, I did. But Derek Carr did throw a lot of interceptions in his second season. But he also did fairly well his rookie year. There's a lot that you can develop. The Bengals don't typically give up on their quarterbacks as quick. So, I mean, I had a few QB swaps in my past in this franchise. Went from Palmer to like Tavares Jackson, Osweiler, but then they got Derek Carr, and I want to give him more of a shot. So the Bengals decided to move back 2 spots. They gain a first-round pick next year from Chicago. They gained the second-round pick of Chicago this year, the 36th overall, and they just moved back 2 spots. I had a lot of teams. The Jaguars could have moved up. The Colts could have moved up. The Ravens could have moved up, even though the Bengals would not deal with their division rival. And actually, I probably would have had the Ravens move up if it wasn't the Bengals pick. So the Bears get the 2nd overall pick. You can almost guarantee this is probably going to be Carson Wentz. Then another trade that takes place. Geno Smith from the Saints needs a change of scenery. They have a new coach. They have Blaine Gabbert now as their quarterback. So they trade Geno Smith to the Baltimore Ravens, who know that they're not going to land Carson Wentz or Jared Goff. They also pick up a 2016 5th-round pick. So for a 2nd-round pick of Baltimore, the Baltimore Ravens get someone who could very well be their starting quarterback. He doesn't have the same Lamar Jackson vibe, but he at least has a similar... he's going to elevate the quarterback play that they had from last year, which was Peyton Manning, who did well. He just was old, and he didn't have a team around him. But it's better than Kaepernick, better than what they've had in the past. Hopefully the Ravens can do better with this quarterback swap. Then we've got Braylon Edwards, the old man receiver who's had a longer career in my franchise than he did in real life. and he gets a 6th-round pick. So Atlanta gets a 6th-round pick for the old aging wide receiver. The Falcons have Emmanuel Sanders, who's 29, Nelson Aguilar, who's 23, Bryce Butler, who's 26, and so a 33-year-old Braylon Edwards did not really fit the needs of this team at this time. Another trade, the Miami Dolphins, who have Garrett Gilbert, who ironically is like a 71 overall or something like that, which is pretty good. They have Cam Newton, Tim Tebow, and Garrett Gilbert. And so I thought a 71 overall going to a team that desperately needs a quarterback like the Commanders. They're not going to ride it out with Colin Kaepernick again. They want a change of scenery. So they trade Garrett Gilbert for a 5th-round pick. So Miami gets a 5th-rounder for a 3rd-string quarterback. And the Commanders have someone who might be able to compete for their starting job. As crazy as it sounds. Then we have another swap here. So Ryan Nassib, quarterback, swapped with Matt Barkley, quarterback. So they had Mark Sanchez over there in New York. He was signed this offseason. And so I didn't want to have Matt Barkley, who was the starter. Then he was benched for a year. He needed to move on. He needs a fresh start. And so the New York Jets have Alex Smith, who is 32 years old. They did sign Drew Stanton, who's 32 years old and has the mentor tag. But Ryan Nassib is in his 4th season. And so basically the two New York teams just swap backup quarterbacks. Barkley's like a 70. No, he's a, yeah, let's see, where is he? Nassib is a 67 overall, whereas Barkley's a 75 overall. So if Alex Smith decides he needs to retire or they have a change of scenery with the Jets, similar to the Aaron Rodgers situation, we could see Matt Barkley being a bridge quarterback for the Jets. And in doing so, you see the Giants giving up 2 picks, a 6th and a 7th. So a little bit of draft capital for the better quarterback. Then we got a QB swap with Josh Freeman and Colin Kaepernick. And so in this instance, we have the Commanders who want to get rid of Colin Kaepernick, a change of scenery for him, and for Josh Freeman, who started 0-5 or whatever with the Chicago Bears. The Bears benched him for Nick Foles, and so Freeman's time in Chicago was done. So this was 2 quarterbacks with like a similar overall, because Freeman was like a 77 overall, and Kaepernick is a 78 overall. So an even swap, change of scenery for these 2 players. And lastly, we got Devontae Parker. With the acquisition of Aaron Rodgers, I needed to get the Titans a real wide receiver. At the end of free agency, they just had Brian Quick, who's an 81 overall. Then they got Devin Thomas, who's a 73 overall. And then they had, let's see, who was it? Sammy Coates, a rookie from last year, who's a 67 overall. You got Ryan Grant, who's 2 years ago, rookie. So not really much talent there. And the 49ers, they just signed A.J. Green. And they traded for Greg Jennings midseason. So they got Greg Jennings, A.J. Green, Alshon Jeffrey, Jordan Matthews, all with a higher overall than Devontae Parker. So even though Devontae Parker is in his 2nd season, or he completed his 2nd year, he's entering his 3rd season, 23-year-old, they figured, you know what, let's get some draft capital for him. We have a lot of receivers on this team that are really high quality. Parker may not see the field. So Parker goes from being the 5th wide receiver on the 49ers, and he now becomes the 3rd, but maybe 2nd if I decide to put him over Devin Thomas. So those are some trades and some free agency acquisitions in this 32-team franchise. Hope you liked the video. Subscribe to the channel if you want more updates. The draft, I'm going to have some fun stuff for you there just to go over who went where. But then we'll get back to some more regular season action of the 32-team franchise.